for joining me again here at Ask a Black Girl, the podcast, your destination for in-depth, non-cocktail party friendly conversations. As I sit here with you today, my family has made it through the first week of school, like barely, like by the skin of our teeth. We all know there are executive functioning problems here in this family, but my Lord, we cannot transition to save our lives. You know, I don't know what it was about this year in particular. We had a wonderful summer. It was wonderful. We're fortunate enough to go see family abroad, overseas, and spend some time other places. We all had a great time. As we started to get closer and closer to the time to return to our wonderful home and our wonderful town with wonderful people, I just was not feeling it. Now, some of you can take my feminist card if you'd like to, but one old saying that I do believe is true is that the woman sets the tone for the home. Perhaps it was my fault this year because the tone I was setting, dread, I was just not feeling it. And yeah, it was giving anxiety. I was chatting with one of my really wise girlfriends who shall not be named. And she kind of said to me, "Oh, you're not looking forward to the blacktop politics." I had never heard that term before, but I'll let all of you interpret what that means to you. I don't necessarily know 100% what that means to me. Maybe it has to do with the fact that large groups of women is not my ministry. But I will say this, me saying hello to you casually outside the school is not a proposal of marriage. I promise you. But that just goes to show that you never know what people are going through. Everyone is going through something, fighting battles that others might not be aware of. It's important not to take these things personally. This also brought to mind one of my favorite new people who I had a chance to meet with this summer. She's a mother. She's accomplished. She's tall. She's blonde. She's beautiful. But most importantly, she's making a difference. Erin Erenberg is a practicing lawyer and founder of Chamber of Mothers, which is a national nonprofit organization. Together, her and her band of nonpartisan volunteers are working every day to make life a little bit easier for mothers. Suppose one could say that Erin and her minions are participating in the right kind of blacktop politics. Very dynamic conversation. I think you'll enjoy it. Stay tuned, and I'll see you on the other side.
And welcome, Erin. How are you today?
I'm well, thanks, Rana. I'm excited I'm talking to you today. I was really looking forward to this.
Yes. So thank you so much for joining me. Where in the world are you today?
Hilton Head Island, a place close to your heart.
Very close to my heart. In fact, the last time I was there, we were enjoying a smoothie and chat. Erin, when we first met, not only was I impressed with you personally and professionally, we bonded over the fact, and we can argue about whether we're geriatric millennials or the bottom of the row, Gen X parents, but the concept of motherhood, going from career and motherhood and how it changed us. Tell us a little bit about your origin story there.
Sure. So I'll keep this as brief as I can, but my parents really instilled in me a sense of servant-hearted leadership. And it was not about what they told me to do, is what I saw them do. My mom was a public school teacher for 37 years and really looked for communities that where she could teach, where there was a lot of economic disadvantage, there were racial disparities, and she went in and just was so good at being with students who needed support. And so I saw her do that. I saw her just bring everything of what she was into that work, her humor, her patience, her kindness, her just skill at teaching, which, by the way, I do not have. And then my dad was a lawyer, a small town lawyer, but he served on school boards, and now he represents 6 public schools. And so there was always this emphasis on community, emphasis on, you know, you do your best, you do excellent work, and you find somebody you can serve. And I think subconsciously I took that into my adulthood. I did go to law school. I learned very quickly that I did not want to be in a corporate legal environment. I wrote my letter of resignation after 8 months, and I ended up learning about myself a couple things. Number one, I really value autonomy. And so while I have continued practicing law, even to this day, I do it on the side. I like working more directly with clients. I like working in an entrepreneurial environment. And so I went from that big law firm to working in the music law space in Nashville, Tennessee. And yeah, it was really fun. I got to work with a lot of cool artists and to learn about just the business of music, right? And to be with talented people, understand their songwriting catalog, and then how to put that into the world in a way that honored the artist who had created the work in the first place. That was all very fulfilling to me. I also at that time was volunteering at a place called the Help Center with women who'd experienced domestic violence and helping them write their stories as part of them being successful at passing their high school equivalency test. As I was doing that, my boss at CSAC, where I was working, the performing rights organization in the music space, said, "Hey, I noticed that you really love this sort of volunteer work and helping others. I sit on the board of the Academy of Country Music. They want to start their first nonprofit. Can I throw your hat in the ring?" I went there for a job. I ended up getting that job. It was at the Academy of Country Music, of all places. I do not like country music to this day. I can't stand it.
Really? They're like the last original American.
They were like the OGs, yes. Like Willie Nelson and Waylon Jennings.
The national treasure? Yes.
Love. I mean, she's a national treasure. However, I don't like the hunting, fishing, loving every day. Like, that's not my vibe. And I didn't grow up around that. I grew up in Ohio.
We'll accept that temporarily.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. Cut to, I got that job. I moved to LA. It was a fabulous experience. It was such a fun intersection of working with talent. And we got to go to Vegas for the award show every year and put something on live TV and also give back. We established an amazing music camp in Nashville that helped folks with Williams syndrome. And we helped places like Free Arts for Abused Children, just did so much good through the entertainment industry. And that's where I learned a lot about myself, that I really wanted to be a part of being in community, doing good, and using my background to help others. Cut to, I eventually became a mom when I was 33 and found that I really loved it. And I was quite surprised because I did not grow up playing with dolls or babysitting or thinking about my biological clock. And then I had a baby, and my biggest ambition was to be the best mom that I could be to him. And I enjoyed slowing down. I enjoyed the patient, gentle sides of me that I really hadn't encountered maybe ever, if not for a very long time.
So for me, Erin, I don't know what it was like for you, is that I always knew I wanted to be married. I didn't know if I wanted to have children. I'm not going to lie. Mm-hmm. And I thought I'd do one and done. Like when I was growing up, like if I had babysitters, like I would take my Cabbage Patches and wouldn't mother them. I would give them to my babysitters, have them pretend they were my nannies. And I would like pretend, I had really had this pretend, thank you, Lily and Vernon catalog. I had this little fake cell phone, and I would drive and be like, "Oh, you're my nanny." And I was like J.C. Wyatt in that movie Baby Boom with Diane Keaton. Like,
love it.
After effect, is she telling she can't do it? But that was kind of what I wanted to do, right? I wanted to, like, if I were a parent, I didn't want it to impact my career too much. And I thought that, I would be working abroad, right? Maybe married to the Italian ambassadors, had this high-powered fashion or entertainment career, right? And we'd be in Vogue, photographed by Patrick McMullen. And like,
I still see it for you, by the way. I still see it for you.
I don't know. But the point is, like, that's what I thought career and like what it would be like integrating a child. The child would just be like another peg, right, where it was happening. Mm-hmm. But when I got into the workplace, that's not what it seemed like for the mothers. I knew. I don't know about you.
No, I mean, I love that. I love that image. And I think we were sold a lot of that imagery. And Yeah. And I'm glad that we live in a time where we talk about care writ large, whether it's taking care of an elderly parent, whether it's taking care of yourself, whether it's taking care of children. We're really, thanks to folks like Ai-jen Poo at Domestic Workers and Care Can't Wait, we are really talking about care and the value of care. Because in that example that you shared, which I really relate to, there was no care, right? The child was the accessory. It was like kind of on the side. We don't show care in our media, whether it be, you know, the magazines we grew up with or the shows we watched. There was not a lot of value and even time spent on what does it look like to care. And you look at this sort of the pie chart of your life, we all only have so much time, so much energy, and care is going to be part of that equation for all of us. Again, whether it's an elderly parent, a brother, a sister, an aunt or an uncle, a child, we will be engaging in care. And there's so much, there's enormous value.
Candidly, I don't know how Claire Huxtable was home that much and she was alone.
How
was she there? And she was sitting at the desk and was able to engage in the conversation. That's not real.
No one interrupted her. She didn't have to do Zoom school.
I know.
I was raised in an environment of a lot of faith. My parents went to church every Sunday. And one thing I could never, and I still can't square, is why are some people suffering in such very basic ways? Like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, don't have food, don't have shelter. They're physically harmed. And then I'm out here with a legal degree and, you know, have parents that loved me and were so good to me. Like, and like all of this, you know, the word privilege, I think, has really become overused, but it's true. Like, you just wonder why was I born into a situation that, you know, in so many ways, my path has been easier. And there are people across the globe that are really suffering. I saw this servant-hearted leadership. And I think my parents, by example, ingrained that in me. And so although I had been really ambitious, I was like, I want to be ahead of the class and I want to go to Duke University and I want to I really never thought about being a mother. I was so focused on what I wanted to accomplish with my career. And you talked about marrying this ambassador. I wanted to be that ambassador. And like one day, maybe still, you know, I always had this high ambition, you know, law school and passing the bar and being a lawyer. You just learn to just always, there's always an angle, right? And even working in charity, it's like, well, who would you give the money to? There's like a Hunger Games component even to that. And so, but being a mother, it was just like an exhale and a softness that I felt coming into my body. And I really loved being a mom. But what I couldn't square that with at the time was that Lean In, for example, was majorly in the zeitgeist. And I read that to mean that if I wanted to lean out at all, even if I had 3 months of state provided maternity leave because I was in California. And I was not ready after 3 months. Like, George wasn't sleeping through the night. I was still breastfeeding. I still felt like I was healing and my brain was all discombobulated. I just cried every day when I went back to work. And I felt like there was no way to win. And we had seen all of these examples, like your example of baby boom. Like, oh yeah, of course. Like, she's just out there in that sweet suit and like has a nanny and has a cell phone and making it happen. And it works out. Although like they did really tell the story of difficulty, but we had these kind of feminist heroines that.
Right. Do you not remember Day to Night Barbie? That was the other person. I'm not going to hate on Charles Sandberg. I had Day to Night Barbie. And Day to Night Barbie had this impeccable like pink suit. And then she would like, you'd flip it around and she had like this beautiful like bodysuit, like pre-Beyonce with like the pencil skirt with it. So she was able to handle work and career, right? So that combined with Sheryl Sandberg's book made me feel, quite frankly, very unaccomplished and insignificant when we had newborns. Because I was like, on one hand, I feel like, okay, maybe I'm growing a muscle I didn't have. It's almost like you hear people say with grad school, like in grad school, I was a better student than I was in high school or even college. I didn't like grow that muscle. On one hand, with motherhood, I'm like, okay, maybe I'm doing this well, but like not so much. I'm losing the plot. I'm losing the plot. I'm losing where I'm supposed to be.
100%. I really feel that. And yeah, man, I mean, that we were sold so many different dreams, and I really, I've spent some time studying the different feminist movements, and I really know that those women were just trying their best. They were trying to get from one level of freedom to another. But I also felt like the way I interpreted it, that was that I was supposed to have it all. I was supposed to do it all. And it was supposed to look easy. It was supposed to look effortless. And I was supposed to be patient and sweet and kind at home, and then go to work and still be able to like do the deal. And I didn't feel that way. And skipping really ahead from like that young woman in 2012 who had her first baby. And then I was really grappling with, what can I do about this? Like, if I feel this way and I have so much access and so many resources and a loving mom that came and stayed with me for a month, and I'm still feeling so whack, how is anybody else doing this? And can I be a part of the solution? And it took me until 2017 before really knowing how to devote myself meaningfully to service in this space. I ended up working at WME, the big talent agency, and I worked in entertainment in another place after that. But I couldn't get over this feeling of, how can I help make things better for other mothers? And now that I've started Chamber of Mothers, which is a national nonprofit that reaches, up to 20 million moms a month based on whatever campaign we're doing, and has 46 chapters across the country, and meets with legislators to fight for paid leave and childcare and improve maternal health outcomes. Now that I'm deep in that, I wish I could have told like new mom me, and every mom listening, every mom out there, that you are not the failure. Our systems have failed you. You are not the failure. If you're going through perinatal mood and anxiety disorders, if you are wondering how on earth can anyone work and be the mother that they want to be, if you're hating your husband as he sleeps through the night and you're up breastfeeding and can't sleep all night, you're not the problem. We do not have enough support. And that, it's very unsexy to think about law and policy. And it's even from a fundraising perspective, there are a lot more folks that want to open up their coffers and donate to organizations that, give diapers to moms who are living in their car. What we're fighting for is no moms should be living in their car. There should not be a 3 to 4x multiplier on the maternal mortality rate for Black women, for Native American women and Pacific Island women. It's ridiculous. And it is so disheartening to me that we live in a country that truly turns a blind eye on that. I mean, I remember it was maybe 2 years ago, there was a Dateline special on our maternal mortality rate. And my husband, who like sees me doing this work all the time, was like, oh my, can you believe it? And I'm like, yes, I can believe it. This is why I do what I do. This is why I'm like making nothing now, because this is like my heart work, and doing law, practicing law on the side to try to just have some financial integrity around here, because this cannot go on. We cannot watch something like that. We can't hear that statistic and walk away and say, well, I'm just going to go about my day. That is happening here in this country as we speak.
I want to hear more about your 3 platforms, because I was doom scrolling a couple weeks ago, and I saw an article on Vox, right? And it was another moment. It was something about how mothers were stressed out post-pandemic, or like whatever it is. And it's a lot of the emotional touch points you and I have discussed, right? And I know that at the end of the day, you guys have 3 main areas of focus. Can you share that kind of for listeners here and what those are and what those mean?
So it's maternal health. And within that, the focus is really on decreasing maternal mortality and increasing support for mothers. So more data on what it takes to be a healthy mom and to thrive, both mentally, physically. It's all interrelated. Number 2, getting paid family and medical leave passed for all at the federal level. And number 3, federal support for accessible, affordable, quality childcare across the country. But it's
You're a nonpartisan organization, right? You're a nonprofit organization, which I like.
Correct. So this is like the boring legal part. We're a 501c3, which means you have to be nonpartisan and you really have to watch out for not throwing your support behind one particular political candidate and being balanced in who you talk about. But beyond that, we have chosen to strategically work across the political spectrum, knowing that we are in a bipartisan system, like it or not, and looking at the fact that it tends to be the same folks who vote no on our issues. So if our issues are improved maternal health, decreasing maternal mortality rate, accessible, affordable childcare, and paid family medical leave, you can look and see who's voting no on that over and over. And it's folks on the more conservative side, conservative Democrats and Republicans. And so as I've gotten into this work, and I was just speaking with this amazing woman, Maria, who is in Hawaii, and she helps Pacific Island mothers. And she was talking about the need for care there, and that in Maui, they're in a maternal care desert. That trip to Alaska I took with my mom because I just nerd out on all this stuff. I met a doula and was asking about Alaskan Native moms and the care that they have. And they're also in a care desert. Arkansas, one of the worst maternal care deserts in the country. I mean, it's really bad. And the fact that we are now in a political environment where we've cut spending, we've cut jobs inside HHS, we've lost all this data. We were already, during the Biden administration, we were not where we needed to be, but there was at least a focus on that and emphasis on it. And there were convenings and there was an attempt to do better. Now we are just pretending it doesn't exist. And so now with Chamber Mothers, it really does feel like the right work at the right time. And I'll tell you, Rana, it is the furthest thing from easy. We have just a battalion of volunteers across the country, but moms are tired. They come into this work because they're feeling hurt and pain and desperation, and they want to be effective. They want to give function to hope by advocating. But then they get tired too, and so our leaders come in and out. They've done amazing things across the country, passed laws, created resources, been to DC and met with lawmakers across the political spectrum.
Stopping there, you and I have friends that are in our same life stage, right? We also have friends, again, another show about the dating situation in modern America. We have friends that aren't married or don't have kids, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Why is this relative to them? Why should they care? Because not everyone comes from, I love you're talking about your wonderful family and the posturing of servant leadership that you learned. I come from a similar faith-based background, but I think that's the challenge of America today. Like, we're kind of in our own buckets. Why should other people be interested, or what's the benefit for them, quite frankly, in this topic?
I love that question. And it's funny you would ask it now when we're talking about kind of bipartisanship. And that has been very important for us to nail down, because the truth of what happens in our political system is that our lawmakers only focus on things that they consider to be mainstream priorities, right? It can't be a niche priority. It has to be a mainstream priority. So we've done a lot of work looking at what are the different lenses or frames through which to look at these issues. Well, number one, you do not have a healthy family. Everybody's in some kind of family, right? They've had, for better or for worse, we've all had a family. You do not have a healthy, sturdy family without a healthy, whole mother, period. And as Charles Johnson, one of my heroes in this work, who founded For Kira for Moms after his wife passed away in childbirth, says all the time, you either are a mother or you have a mother. And so it impacts everybody. I love it too. And it's his. I didn't make it up. But then the other piece is that our economy. So you look across the political spectrum, everybody's concerned about our economy, whether it's somebody who is saying, and there's way too much of this right now, I can't afford eggs, I can't afford gas, I can't afford to own a home. Like, why is it so difficult to just make it as an American right now? Or you have people who are really conservative and they want to pay less in taxes and they want a strong GDP. all of these folks need to be thinking about paid leave and childcare, because paid leave is simply childcare. It is paying the parent to be focused on care for a season of time until they're back in the workforce. And childcare is making it possible for parents to be a part of the workforce. And to make it more complicated than that is just foolishness. I mean, if we're going to have a thriving economy, we have to have paid family medical leave, and we have to have affordable childcare. And every other country across the globe knows this. I mean, it's only micro islands that don't have federal paid family medical leave.
Yeah, the contrast I had between my sister-in-law and myself when we had our first child, or children in general, was night and day. I mean, I know, for example, listen, vanity is a problem that I always knew I'd have, right? And so, but also learning more about myself and the undiagnosed ADHD, like, it's very important for me to be regulated and centered and healthy, right? And the fact that I only had 3 months to try to figure out how to get myself sorted, get my home life sorted, get my child sorted. I mean, this sounds silly, but like Spain, for example, my sister-in-law still got one of those good bodies everybody seems to have in Spain, where she's like skinny, but she still has her breasts after the breastfeeding. But listen, they paid for the floor PT.
Oh,
right?
Huge.
That she had, I remember like being at the beach with her. I'm like, oh, well, she had 9 months of paid for, pelvic floor PT to do. And I'm sitting here trying to figure out how to get to my same hot yoga class in Manhattan and get back to daycare before class. It sounds like a world problem, but not so much. I remember I'll never forget, my mom had to fly up a week before I went back to work. Kind of like I'm with public school. My kids go to public school, even though I came to not like it. And I've gone through with it, but whatever. Same thing with daycare. I was like, I'm totally into daycare. I don't need a nanny, My butt was about to back out. And my mom had to fly up, right, to be with me when I physically dropped him off from daycare, had to back me up from like looking in the window at daycare. And I remember crying and being like, why do people do this to their kids? But I know now, right? Those were hormones. Those were hormones, which no matter how many, how I went back to Pilates, like that was still a problem, but I didn't have, thank goodness I had the family I had, but for people that don't have the emotion support and all of that, it's a huge deal.
It is a huge deal. And then people judge themselves, right? They're like, what's wrong with me? Why am I crying? Why can't I leave? The other moms can leave. Why did my mom have to fly in? They feel bad about themselves. And so the bad feelings compound themselves. And like you said, you realize now it's hormones, but when we need to know that is when we're in it. And your point about pelvic floor PT support, it actually shouldn't be a bougie thing. We need wraparound care. When you look at what leads to thriving in mothers, where they feel whole, how they can be sturdy for their families, they have wraparound care, whether it's midwifery or a doula, somebody speak up for them in that room, support from, if it's not family, because we're all scattered all over the place, a postpartum doula to help you understand what's happening inside your body afterward, pelvic floor support, because it's not a vain thing. It's not a cosmetic. It's about being sturdy in your body again and being able to lift your baby and do what you do.
I would argue it's even beyond postpartum, right? For me, it started with my doctor. And again, we could go down a whole other thing of no matter what socioeconomic situation, Black women practitioners. I remember saying, I feel like there's something swollen around my knee. And they're like, oh, that's fine. That's not that. And that was 2 years postpartum. And even in this transition, I talk a lot about the transition from moving from living in the city to being a suburban mom. I felt bad about myself emotionally because there seemed to be the moms that could still be doing the JC White from Baby Boom thing. They had the full powerful jobs and they're going into the city and their kid seems fine. And like, I know that I just can't handle that. I got kids with ADHD running around. There's still very much so, I think, a loneliness and a support that in this stage, I would argue that the elementary school part, like entering middle school part, is harder for me, quite frankly, than the baby stage was.
I mean, that sort of self-judgment, how do I find my footing piece, was really, really hard for me. And then now I'm in a hard phase. Our 13-year-old started middle school last year, just turned 13 this month. They need so much psychological, emotional, social support. Like character building, especially with phones and social media. And our son would not have a phone except for the fact that he was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in 2020, which is a whole other story. And he has to have it to monitor his glucose and share his glucose out to all of his care team, including chiefly me. So, it's a lot. And I'm constantly pulled, like, as we're on this podcast, I'm seeing all these texts fly in about back to school night and do your kid have this and that. It could be a full-time job, right? Like the forms and the tech, it's all very intrusive. We live in a time where you can be contacted in such an intrusive way. And that leads to folks feeling like the norm is to just ask the question or blast the form, and there's so many inputs. And it's all too much. And I hear you talking about ADHD, and I think with that and any kind of functioning, it's all too much. And then you add something like ADHD, kids with ADHD, parents who have ADHD. A lot of people on our team have ADHD because they're superpowers in ADHD. Right. So people who are able to focus on something, build a movement, see a clear vision for what's possible. It's a superpower. And the way in which we live, it does a lot of harm to the nervous system when you're processing that way. So I think this phase with kids who are doing so much, and we as parents are expected to be available for all of that all the time, it's completely exhausting.
But see, how do we convert that into being there for each other? Because what I was going to say is, and I was like, I got so excited this morning. What is the name? I think it's that Arthur Brooks guy that does the happiness class at Harvard. He was on one of the financial news shows, and he was saying, and it was, I love it when the experts find stuff that supports the stuff, and I'm like, duh, I intuitively knew that, right? And he was talking about AI, right, or technology in general is not good when it's your primary sense of contact or communication. However, when it supports, right, relationships and interpersonal communication, it's great. So
I love that.
Saying that, it makes me think about the fact that all of us parents are kind of pulled all over the place. How do we engage, or how do we help our peers understand that Chamber of Mothers and organizations like it, that this is something it's worth putting our time into? And how do we go about doing that?
I love that. And I do think loneliness is a huge part of it. And, we say all the time that our moms who come and volunteer at Chamber Mothers and chapters across the country, they're doing this in the little slivers of time that they have, but they choose to do it because it's putting function to hope. Moms are feeling lonely and isolated. They are under-supported. They're frustrated, especially in this political climate. People are furious.
Oh, yes.
And we need community. And it's funny, you referenced the Vox article. I'm sure they quoted the Surgeon General, the outgoing Surgeon General from the last administration. He really, of all the things he could emphasize, he emphasized that parents have too little support, and the lack of support has led to physical illness, and it's an epidemic. And then his outgoing message was, the solution to that is community. So how do we find that community? And it's true. Sometimes it's through tech, but it's tricky too, though, Rana, because one of the reasons we want our chapter members to get together in real life is you treat one another different when you're eye to eye.
Yes.
Social media can be so nasty, and these takedowns and hit pieces, and it's so awful. I mean, I was not raised to be like that. I mean, our version was like writing a note in class, and you write the note and you regret it and you feel terrible and you're in the principal's office. Well, people shoot these like eviscerating little notes around like it's nothing.
And it's here every day. Like my kids make fun of me because they're like, Mommy, you claim you don't watch Housewives. Maybe you watch a couple. But I have found myself, I'm not kidding, I scaled myself back to 3 franchises only because I found that in my interactions with other people that it was easier to get me to that Naomi Campbell button, as I call it, the red button. Because it's like we're used to, it's really, really sad. Erin, I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's about community. And I really admire people like you that aren't just thinkers or complainers, they're doers. How can people learn more about Chamber of Mothers, and how can they get involved?
Thank you for asking. We would love for you, if you have a local chapter near you, for you to get involved in your local chapter. Even if that means you just come to the chapter meeting when you can. Here on Hilton Head, it sometimes looks like a walk down the beach where we just talk about what we're mad about and then later think about what to do about it.
Well, rub it in living near the beach, girl. Rub it in.
I know. Sorry. You too
Yes.
can be here anytime you want. But yeah, whether it's just getting together with folks who feel safe so that you can share your story and then come up with ways to help other moms in your state, or to be a part of the work on the federal level. But if you want to find information about any of this, you can go to @Chamber of Mothers on Instagram. So if you're driving, as soon as you pull over, go to @Chamber of Mothers and give us a follow, because we share stories of what's happening in local chapters, ways to get involved. We are online at chamberofmothers.com. And we would love for you to sign up to our newsletter, because that's how you'll find more in-depth information on what we're working on and connect that into what matters to you.
This positive news story probably feels cliche, but I can never get enough of it. And she's in the first grade. Her school worked with her father, Austin Bonstetter, to arrange a surprise visit. You see, Austin has been deployed overseas for almost a year, and she hasn't seen her father. He's missed a lot of firsts, and she was really missing her father. So go to people.com to see one of those beautiful videos in which Austin surprises his daughter at school. She runs into his arms, crying and hugging. Again, I know it feels cliche, but it's the little things like this that matter and count and keep us going. Thanks again for visiting me here at ABG. You can find us on Substack or Instagram. We'll see you next time.